Welcome back to another episode of Mission Control. Johnny's here. We've also got all the way from New South Wales, Mr. Ben Mitchell, the founder of Free the Nation Music. Is that correct?
Correctamundo, as we used to say. Yes.
Nice. And how are you, by the way? How is New South Wales at the moment?
Well, if you like going to the beach and having a swim and lying in the sun, northern New South Wales is pretty good. And if you can keep your mind, heart and spirit out of the nonsense that's going on, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Hasn't New South Wales just been lifted the restrictions or something? You're sort of back to semi-normal?
Perhaps. I don't mean to be flippant, but or dismissive, but I really don't pay a lot of attention to what the directive of the day is, because it seems to change with the wind. But on your point, I think that there is no rules or directives or whatever they're calling them about lockdown in the house. So we're free to roam, as according to them, always free according to me and my fellow living men, women and children, you guys. And mask mandates, there's nothing. People don't have to if they're following the government directives. So we've got to be very careful with our language, you see, because they get us talking the talk that they want. And I'm just sorry, it's the first time I'm using the headphones and I can't hear myself as well. But you can hear me, right?
Yeah, no,
we can hear you perfectly. Sounds great.
That's great.
Yep.
That's good. I might do the old trick in the studio. Yeah, that's one off.
Yeah, it looks cooler that way anyway.
That's it. Well, we want to look cool. Any other advice I'll take to look cool?
Yeah. No, that was it. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. But I think, they've stepped it up in terms of the venues and things, and so some businesses are interpreting the instructions they get from the television to mean that they have to impose government regulations, which they don't. They're not government employees, and the government is a corporation anyway. So what you've basically got, and you're probably very well aware, is a corporation trying to impose corporate rules on a public. So we're all learning a lot about the nature of what law is and what governments are, and at different rates, and that's understandable. We're like in a big, sorry, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but to answer your question, we're going off on a bit of a learning. We're all on different learning curves about how much we know about our rights, and so I try to listen to people who know more than me, not less.
I always find it strange, and I say to people like, Australia doesn't really have any Bill of Rights or any sort of. There was something to do with like there's nothing really holding. There's no constitution like America has. Australia's kind of just a set of rules that we have to follow. So like through the Commonwealth or something like that.
Yeah, well, I'm not 100% clear on that. There's a lot of people who say we do have a constitution, that we've always had a constitution, and that constitution has never gone away. But what has happened is that a corporate government have come on and imposed themselves sort of ignoring that constitution. So without sort of saying exactly what is happening, that's my understanding of what is happening. So I don't have a copy of the constitution. That'll be something that is probably coming to me in the near future. I do have, and I'm invested about $170, the Black's Law Dictionary, because coming from Victoria, where we were put into the first and harshest lockdowns, some people say on the planet, I was impelled to learn a lot more about what the word mandate means, for instance, which is, if you don't know, some of your listeners, viewers don't know, it's an offer. So a mandate is an offer that's only becomes active once it's accepted. And so this is some of the word trickery that they're using on the population at large.
Yeah, I've even heard stories of people that have tried to take a lot of these, especially these fines and infringements that are coming out now, like hundreds of people being fined for mask-related infringements, but they actually hold no weight in a court of law. Not too sure if that's correct, because you read a lot of third-hand information, but from what I see, that like a lot of this doesn't really hold substance. Like you said, with the word mandate, it's not really enacted into law.
I think you're really good there, Daryl, in so much as we need to be so careful with our language, and that's probably the only good thing, in my opinion, that's come out of the political correctness movement, because it does make us very aware of what we're saying. Now, I'm a little bit older than you guys. I grew up in a time where you could say a lot of things, and it didn't mean much, because what is important is the heart and the spirit of the word, and the heart and the spirit of the word has been overtaken by something else, by idealism, and by a lot of fear, really. So I think it's good to qualify sometimes what we're saying about what's happening with these fines, because I don't have personal experience. I haven't had to go. Well, actually, I do have a personal experience. I had a fine in Victoria for that was related to automobiles, let's say, and which it was, and I managed to learn a new skill, defend my rights, and not pay that fine. Now, the old Ben would have just said, yes, sir, no, sir, officer, and gone along with the paradigm, which was that the law was something to be respected, that it was above us, and that tough titties, right? And then the whole paradigm for me personally, for lots of people, I think, in Australia and around the world, is changing. And a lot of people say that's why we're going through this, because there's a real awakening happening of consciousness of our rights. And so this force, which has been given lots of names, and we could come up with some now, but we've been given lots of names, is coming down on us to say, we're going backwards, not forwards. And so we've got this conflict going on, right? Where people are going, hold on, maybe government's not. The police have an ABN. Why do the police have an ABN? I thought just businesses had an ABN.
Yeah.
We're asking all these awkward questions, right? And so they're just going, don't you ask those questions, basically.
Well, isn't it? It's what I've heard as well, that even in a court of law, like, lawyers have their own language. There's a certain when it comes to words and terms and way of describing things, lawyers, they speak a different language, and that's how they try and fool us and try and get the better of us by saying, what we're saying means this when you think it means that. It's
a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's basically a lot of smoke and mirrors. Yeah, they're using words and etymology against the people. I've always thought that even now our language has been hijacked and used against us in a spiritual sense, especially when you get into law and things like deeper theories. I think a lot of the universities push that high-end theory sort of thinking, when really it all really, like, some of the most complex problems have really simple solutions, but it's all watered down with this terminology and things like it. It kind of blinds you into thinking this is a really complex thing, but it really isn't. It's really quite simple.
It's not at all. And Johnny, what you're talking about is, of course, legalese. There's a word for it, right? And what we are speaking to them is babble. We babble because we predominantly don't understand legalese, and legalese is the language of commerce law, and commerce law is the law that binds us, when we are following it, to fines, registrations, and etc. etc. So Tom Barnett is a great educator and guide for this sort of information. He's been studying it for a long time, and I highly recommend people search him out. I've certainly learned a lot from him. He's the guy who did the You Can't Catch a Virus video. It was one of his early ones that was very popular. But so there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot of people who know a lot about legalese. I put into a song that I wrote, We Are Born But Not Birthed, because there's a difference there. So we celebrate a birthday, and in our family we've stopped calling it birthdays. We are re-educating ourselves a word at a time, Daryl. I agree with you. These words are very important for a spiritual reason. My wife has just got a book on this very subject and the concept that I really loved that is in the first chapter of that book is that something like, I don't know, 50 billion words or 500 billion words, something like that, are spoken every day on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you think about that concept, and then you think about the concept of like or the word love or peace or any word that just resonates with such a beautiful feeling of creation and acceptance, and then I don't need to say them, but there's so many other words that do not have the same resonation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have 50 billion or 500 billion words being spoken, what are you evoking? What are you bringing forth? The energy in that. Now, we talk about, if you go into physics, right, the world is vibration. The particle physics, or whatever they call it, there's more space than there is matter. And there's some suggestion that there's no matter anyway, but let's say there is some matter, that there's so much space. So the vibrations, I've got tuning forks. If you hit them, it does something to you. You can hear it. It's like a guitar or a bass, 440 or 432 hertz, right? It's all that stuff. So it's so powerful, and we're getting a good lesson from the universe into waking up to our every word, our every thought, because that's the vibration. And there's so much to learn and so many ways to grow right now.
So what do you? Sorry, I was going to ask. What do you call birthdays now instead of birthdays?
I think we call them born days.
Born days, okay.
Yeah, born days, because you are born.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the etymology of is it the right word, of born, and I will. I love words. I'm a writer, songwriter, and a writer. I've written a couple of books, and I've always said, I love words. My dad was a minister of religion for the first 10 years of my life. So the words of the Bible and these powerful words and spoken, even if he have to have some presence and the 10 commandments and these words of what we follow, etc. We left when I was 10, but there's a lot of impact from that. But there's so much to learn. There's still so much to learn, and looking at words and where they come from. And over the course of my life, my life has improved. The quality of my life has improved as I have paid more attention to and more responsibility for the words I use. And it's a very simple thing, and it goes into things like affirmations, so fake it till you make it is one of Anthony Robbins' ones or whatever. But put the words in you. I am successful. I am happy. We have peace. Nathan Maingard is the guy who did a beautiful spoken word that went viral. He's from South Africa. He's one of the Free the Nation musicians, and his Telegram group is called "We Are Already Free." Beautiful affirmation.
Yeah.
And to some minds really trapped in the dark, and I understand it. I lived in Victoria. I came out of that darkness. It's very difficult for them, especially if you watch television or news or whatever, to escape that programming. These words are bombarding. Now, we're having a beautiful conversation. I'm going on and you're listening. I'll listen to you next soon. But there's not this cut off because there's an agenda, because we're just open to listening to each other. And you watch the media, it's this is what we're talking about. And now, that was really strange. What was he talking about? Words have impact. Boy, his dad was a minister. I think it got to his head, didn't it? And they write you off to the ad break.
Yeah.
And so we're kept, if we're watching that hypnosis, we're kept in that very narrow frame of what's acceptable. Don't question it. These are how we use words. Can we swear on this podcast?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I had absolutely. I had a former friend, I'll say, when the face mask mandates first came in, and he on Facebook basically, I was expressing my views. This is against natural law for anyone to impose face masks on us. Et cetera, et cetera. And I'd done some research very early on, about what the virus, the potential, whatever, that it didn't exist, basically. But I wasn't pushing that. I was just saying, I'm not going to wear a mask. He said, just wear a fucking face mask. I'm like, mate, you wouldn't speak to me like that. Oh, yeah, that's how we talk to each other. And there's this very interesting dynamic, especially in Australia. I swear, maybe more than I should. I don't know. I like it. Our kids swear because I swear. It's part of language. But there's again what I said earlier on about the spirit of the word.
Yeah, the energy you feel from it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's why they call it spelling. I think that human beings have kind of forgot that we are creatures of manifestation. And whatever we speak, we have the ability to speak things into existence. So I do think with the news, and even with, even if you study a lot of the occult and things like that, which I as a kid, as an angsty teenager, I went down that whole occult, spiral. But trying to be cool and edgy, but not knowing really the ramifications and what it really stood for. That stuff is real to me. Definitely, you're really playing with your own mind and things like that. But I think spelling and what we, like you were saying before, what we affirm. As much as I do think there is a battle going on and there are sides and there's this big spiritual war, I'm very careful about what I try and affirm. And I have to catch myself sometimes because you don't want to keep putting yourself in that, that losing vibe. Like, oh, we're losing, like this is an uphill battle. Everything's hard. Everything's hard. But like you said before, like I can, at the click of a finger, just believe that I'm free. I'm already free. Like you can't, and yeah, some would argue that we already are, but it really is your perception and outlook really does create a bubble around you, a world. I think we're all powerful creatures of manifestation, and I think we've forgotten that. Yeah.
Well, I want to go back to something you said, Ben, about the 500, the amount of words that get spoken throughout a day in the entire planet. And I didn't think about this. And obviously, we're musicians. We talk about the frequencies and, the words the way we speak words has a vibration to it. Think back to, monks and praying, and it's all like it's got to do with vibration. And now when you've got the entire planet like repeating these hashtag words all over the place, that it kind of gave me a bit of chills when you said that, because you realize that so many people are just regurgitating these same what you could consider negative energy words, and that's
absolutely. I think
scary.
It's a form of hypnosis in a way. Like when a bunch of people make a topic trend, that's a lot of energy being pushed into that topic or subject, and it's crazy.
Sorry to interrupt, but when a bunch of people make something trend, yes, they follow. But who makes the trend? Twitter make the trend. Facebook make the trend. Instagram. And who are they? They're a small group of people. And what have they got? An intention for something. Now, again, we can all speculate, but that's the facts, right? Someone decides whether it's them choosing an algorithm or whatever. I remember seeing on Twitter, was it Melbourne lockdown, very, very early on, Melbourne lockdown, and it changed to Melbourne lockdown 2020. And I thought, fuck, they're getting us ready for a 2021. or straight away, the programming is so set and so obvious when you're looking for the signs that you go, oh, they are leading the conversation, right? That's what they're doing. I just did a gig last night on the streets in Mullum, Free the Nation Music, the first live gig, and it was the first time I played in a band. I've been solo for a long time, and I've done a lot of solo shows, and of course over the last couple of years, probably done not much. Maybe 2, but I was playing with a band, and it reminded me, and I remembered, oh, right, I get to lead, not in a megalomaniac way, but I'm the songwriter. These are my songs. We haven't rehearsed. We've got charts, like, okay, and we end, or whatever. So there's someone leading that conversation, and it's it's me, and it's subtle in a way. Hopefully to the audience, it's subtle, but there still is. And it's me, because they're my songs, and this is the way I want this song to go, right? And that's what's happening with all the media in the world. And people are made to think that they're having an original thought by owning some desire to go and get a vaccination, which isn't a vaccination, which has been called a gene therapy, which has all sorts of stuff in it for something that they never got sick with, and no one they know got sick with, but someone did, their second cousin did, because they did the test, which wasn't a real test, which, the story goes on and on. Because the story goes on and on, but because it's told so many times, people believe it, even though the very base of the story are lies.
Well, it's kind of like the music industry. What we realize, or what I realize, is that that whole organicness of labels are giving people what the people want. It's not like that. The labels tell people what they're going to like. It comes down to the labels giving radio stations lots of money to play these certain songs, and then all of a sudden they become the big popular songs, and everyone thinks they're popular because everyone actually likes them. No, it's popular because they've been pushed through your fucking head too long.
Well, it's called taste making. You know, they're trying to be the taste makers of what's popular. You know,
they use that term. They use that term in a sort of positive way, don't they? He's a taste maker, and like, fucking hell, we've just swallowed that one. They've just, hey, have you seen one of our acts? So, Free the Nation Music. We haven't really talked about it a lot, but if people don't know, it's a website that I started with a blog post. It's a list of musicians who support freedom, who are against segregation and discrimination. Very simple idea. I thought my name might be the only one on it, but now we've got 170 names, and from people all over the world, including Jimmy Levy, who had a number one on the rap charts and the hip hop charts on iTunes in America. I'm bringing this up so make sure people know about Free the Nation Music, but also because then what happened was, just in the last couple of days, is suddenly his song was pushed out. I think it was This Is a War? Fantastic song. This is a war on religion. This is a war on the children. He does a good version of it. That's why he's number one. But and it got pushed out by, I can't remember the act, but you'll see if you go to it. And there's 8 versions of this song. What? To push them out, they've just fixed it somehow. They've just thrown it in because they don't want this song. And this is the song that the people, what they really want to hear. And what you're saying about them pushing the music onto people, it's so true, and it's probably happened my whole life, you know, and our whole lives, where it's not really something that's come out of the community spirit or what the people really want. It's the people that have the power and the control say, let's feed them that.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's.
Absolutely, yeah. It's I think to my horror the other month when I saw the rollout of the vaccination, you know, I don't know what you want to call it. I guess it was a
hashtag.
I called it astroturfing. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but it's you know, like when you can't have a real grassroots movement, you've got to make astroturf, right? You've got to give the illusion, but it didn't get, you know, more than 1,000 you know, posts regarding that. But what really horrified me was the fact that artists were having their social media essentially hijacked by labels, and that posted out without their knowledge. One of them was Guy Sebastian.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of people are just posting what they need to, but I'm kind of glad I got out of music when I did about a couple of years ago. I've always told myself I'm taking a break, but now when I look back, I'm like, do I really want to enter that shit show again? Now with the political implications being far more heavier than they were before, I'm not sure why it feels that way. Maybe it's just me.
Well, bands pushing people to get vaccinated, not for any health benefits, but purely so they can get back to this normal. Like,
why are they giving health advice? Yeah. Why are they giving out?
That's right.
It's not about health anymore.
It's just bizarre. It's bizarre. It's a twilight zone.
I want to say, Darryl, get back into music whenever you want to. Follow your heart. I'm in music. I never got out of it, and I've never had to, because I've been independent. I've had opportunities, but I've never had to sign my rights away. And that's what you're talking about with these artists, that they sign their rights away. If you listen to that, what are we saying? I'm signing my. There's your deal with the devil right there. I don't have any rights. You can use my image. You can control what I say. You know, I don't even want to say those words, right? They can't control what I say. They can't use my image. But that's what artists say when they sign those contracts. I had one of the leaders, the people that I know that people were paid money. I know that someone was offered. I did a tweet and an Instagram post because I met someone who firsthand told me that they were offered, their good friend was offered $60,000 to have their song used in the campaign or associated with the campaign. And I shared that and got such a great response because that person turned that offer down. But a lot of people didn't offer, obviously. I had, when I first started the Free the Nation Music tag, before it was a website or whatever, maybe just after, I don't know, but I had Tim Minchin come onto my Ben Mitchell Songs Instagram and do a very condescending post about offering me advice on where I could, you know, he could introduce me to some doctors that he knew.
Fucking Tim Minchin, that little twat. Yeah.
whatever.
Now. Jeez.
Now. That's right. That might be the inner voice, but it's not the voice that I responded with. And I was very polite, and I took a moment and I addressed what he said. And I also said that if he ever has a change of heart, he's welcome to come and join Free the Nation Music and put his name there. And then what happened was very interesting, because I was very polite. I've screenshot it. I've got it. I haven't used it. I haven't posted it. But then he blocked me. He came to my Instagram. He said something terse and aggressive, passively or more, and I was polite to it. And I think that sort of sums the whole thing up there, right? That they're not really, in that instance, you've got someone who is trying to say, if he really felt that position was justified, and he really wanted to help me by introducing me to better doctors than Andrew Kaufman or Thomas Cowan and people that I trust, Judy Mikovits, then we would have opened the conversation, not blocked me after commenting on my post. I'm a big Paul Kelly fan, and when he came on Facebook showing his arm and getting I was upset, and my wife was like, "What are you talking about? They've all sold their soul, Ben. Just accept it." And I'm like, "But Paul Kelly," and then I was thinking today, I haven't gone into. I've invited lots of musicians that we think. That a lot of us think might be politically, what can I say? Not politically, just socially aware, or just standing by a right. We're talking about choice. Let's always remember that. We're just simply talking about, if you want to inject yourself with whatever, I'd never stop anyone. I mean, if there was a kid there with battery acid, I'd say I'd knock it out of his hand. I'd do whatever I could if he was going to inject himself. You know what I mean? But if a grown adult wants to do something, and then that's their choice and that's their karma, and I am not going to tell you, as a person, as a musician, as anything, as whatever, what to do, right? And suddenly the controllers of the narrative, of the spelling, the word spelling, have created a situation where everyone thinks they can tell you what you should put into your body, right? So it's very, very curious. But again, I don't know what these musicians are going through in their lives and how much financial distress they're in, how disempowered they feel in themselves, how they might feel there's no other options in life for them. And they must in some ways feel this way to publicly say what I think you should do with your body in order to come to my concert. I want you to inject something from a company that's had the biggest legal payout in history into your body. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want you to do that. I'm not saying that, but I'm complicit because I'm doing this festival and that's the rules of the festival, and so I don't have to be seen to be saying it, but I'll give my image and my energy to the festival, and they'll put the rules on, right? It's like I've seen gigs, I've seen bands through I can't remember where, but in history where they've been playing, and then it'll come back to me after this probably. And a security guard's gotten violent and started beating on someone. I'm sure it was in the grunge movement or time. And the band stopped. They go, "Hey, man, what are you doing? Stop that. What are you doing? Why are they doing it? That's another guy. It's not him." But because it's happening in their environment and they feel some responsibility because they're having a good time, this is their audience, they feel a sense of kinship and perhaps even protection, certainly affection for that audience. And so seeing someone, an individual, a security guard or whatever, become aggressive and physical on that, they say, "Stop, I'll stop the music." So guys, you've got to stop the music. Stop the music. I'm talking to the musicians who think that they are not playing a part in this tyranny. They are. You are. And there is an opportunity to make history. We're gifted with a time where you can say, "I'm the real deal." You know what I was singing about, freedom and against the man? They weren't just words, because now I'm living it. How many people have commented on my Instagram, on Free the Nation Music Instagram, saying that they're throwing away their Midnight Oil albums? That's really sad. Midnight Oil made some powerful music.
Yeah.
But so many people are so disheartened by them saying, "Get the vax." It makes me so emotional even just bringing it up again. These are musicians that made music that brought tears to my eyes throughout my life, that empowered me, that gave me strength and belief, and suddenly to feel betrayed by those musicians, It's not good.
It's strange, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I got into music very much as a angsty punk type kid, and for me, it like you said, like it always was about going against the establishment in a way, but not recklessly, but kind of thinking for yourself and being fearless enough to stand on your own, even if it means you're alone. That was the reason I got into music. That was a vehicle to express that. And to my horror now, like it's changed so much. Like I was expecting people during, I think Melbourne's like the longest lockdown city in the world. I was expecting, all of my comrades, all my music, all the friendships I had over in Victoria, I was expecting them to like start playing out of their garage and, going down with the man and playing from rooftops and something. But everyone, there was an eerie silence.
Yes.
It just felt
There was
like
a couple
an eerie
guys-
silence. Yeah.
There was a guy I remember who played, and it was like a terrace house in Melbourne, and the cops came pretty quick, or at least that was the scene that we saw on the video. Of course, there is Vanessa Valentine, who's had My Choice and another song escapes me right now, but she came from that sort of punk movement. It's an acoustic song, but it's a beautiful song. But it's a beautiful song. I mean, I play mostly acoustic too, but the point is, she came from that punk movement and loved a lot of those punk bands in Melbourne. It was really strong, and she did a post, early on saying, "What's happened to you guys? Where are you? What's going on?"
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, where are they? That's that feeling. Like, where are they?
I'll tell you where they are, Daryl. They are in the pockets of the grants, the Melbourne cultural grants, the ABC, the Triple R, the Triple J, Double J. These are government music stations, and people forget this. Triple J, ABC.
ABC's government, pretty much. Yeah.
So is Triple J. So is Triple J. Yep. Completely. So is Double J. Right? And it's a slow way that the government has created a great marketing arm to say, no, well, they're just the kids. That's what the kids want. We are the kids, and it's insidious. And in Melbourne, it's the most. I know, that's where I grew up. It's where my musical taste, life was shaped. I played in rock bands, funk bands, grunge bands, acoustic, original, I went to see all sorts of shows, mosh pits, jazz, the Arts Centre, everything. It was so broad and it was rich for that. But then suddenly this political correctness and this narrative that became very, very narrow, and this is all we can talk about. It used to be just so exciting, and that's just been squeezed out. And the money and controlling, and a lot of it, I think, comes down to that, and that's why they feel so desperate and will do what the government say.
Absolutely.
Well, the same thing with when it comes to venues as well, because you think these independent artists will be able to do what you were doing, go out on the streets and perform for free, just give people music and, from rooftops, like you're saying. But people then they want those venues. But then the venues are suddenly, when it comes to the governments, the venues have to comply to certain rules. And it just becomes that trickle-down effect where everyone just needs to comply.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's nuts.
Yeah.
The over-governance and the over-regulation is what we are seeing now. It's like we're sitting in a meditation and we're going, and the worst thing is coming up, the dark shadow is coming up, is some authority controls everything you do. Some authority is if you want to do that, you've got to get a registration. You've got to pay a fee. You've got to do this. When I went to England, for an example, I couldn't believe it. You had to have a license for more than two people to play music in a pub together. Right? That was a license for that. I think it's probably the same things happen in Australia now. That was 20 years ago, whatever. They also had a historical law. There was a tax law that was called a window tax, so that if you had an extra window in your house, you had to pay more tax. This is quite an old law. But that's what, right, Johnny? It's just like, I'm sitting there going, what? For the air, you got to pay tax. So this is not like it's just happened overnight. We are at the pinnacle point, in my view, of a time in human history where we've realised we let the authorities, the government, the idea of government and the government get out of control. This body that's supposed to serve the people hasn't for a long time and has enslaved them. The councils, the councils aren't even under the Constitution, Johnny. We have to look into this. Is there a Constitution in Australia or not? But if there is one, I think it says that there should be no third level of government. So there can be a federal government according to the Constitution and my understanding of it. There can be a federal, there can be state, but there cannot be local council. So the local councils are against the Constitution. So they are not lawful, in my understanding. And I would understand it because the fees, the money, the tax. I want that. And when it comes down to music, and what was so beautiful about doing this gig on the street last night is we didn't even put a bucket around. We didn't have the guitar case open. It wasn't about can you give some money to these musicians who've lost heaps. Like, the guys I was playing, we were talking about, the gigs they used to get, $250, $300 a night, which is not a lot even, but for 3 sets. And they'd play 3 or 4, or however many times they could. And that's how they'd pay their mortgage, right? This is the truth and simplicity of it. And that's been taken away from them. And now they're doing the gig. I say they because they play with me, the bass player and the drummer. Me too, though.
You had Lucius on there. You had Lucius. Yeah,
I saw him.
What a great drummer. Yeah.
He's a great bloke, great drummer. No, you're right. He's absolutely fantastic. And Matthew Armitage, who's a New Zealander who married an Australian girl and live here. And fantastic. The Anzac spirit was alive and well on the streets of Mullumbimby last night. And but the point is, we were making music just for the people. And there was a lot of kids there, a lot of families. And you know what happened? There was my daughter, we had a discussion the other night because my middle daughter, who's about nine, is going to do some dance classes soon, at an off-grid school. And my eldest daughter, who's 10, didn't want to do it and wasn't interested. And I'm like, oh, just give it a try. And I had a chat to her. I'm just like, I'm not making you, but why don't you do a couple lessons and see if, and she was just like, no. And then we did this gig last night and band was rocking. And then there was another guy on, Tom Manza, T. Larman, another Freedom Nation musician who did a hip hop thing. And she was dancing in the crowd with the other people, all the kids on the street as the sun set in Mullumbimby. And afterwards she said to my wife first, she said, I think I want to do the dance lessons. Because she felt it. She felt it, Johnny.
That's good.
She felt what we felt, guys, when we went to gigs.
Yeah.
We sit here. This is great that you and we can all chat like this, right? But fuck, it's no excuse for sitting down and having a yarn together and someone comes in, there's some music on, and then that guy shut up and whatever, and oh, that's beautiful. And, the dynamics of life when we're vibrating right next to each other are different. And my daughter might have not danced. She might have not have had dancing lessons if it wasn't for this gig that we put on in the street. And that got to me. I thought, what about all these kids out there that not only aren't having those opportunities, but they're being masked up? I see kids getting off the buses with masks. I mean, the evil is upon us. Have we called it upon us? Maybe, Darryl. We're talking about words. Have we called it upon us? Well, let us be responsible now and let us banish it again, not off to another place, but let's just dissipate it by being responsible for our words, by owning what we want and creating it in this moment and dancing and making music, and we can do it. We can do it.
Well, I was going to say when I started music, it was the same sort of angsty, but it was also about wanting to be a rock star, make millions of money, drive Ferraris, all that stuff. But well, I still want that Ferrari. No, but I think what it was over time through the music, when you actually feel that energy that gets created from music, where it's no longer about money. It's no longer, like you're saying, it's not about standing on the street trying to make money. It's about the energy, the feeling that you get from music. And like you say, your daughter just dancing in the streets, and people just enjoying it. That's what I miss about being on stage and playing music.
Yeah. I think you said really early on, Ben, you were talking about this Great Awakening and how this big force is kind of crushing down upon the Great Awakening. I do think that's a lot of the reason behind the lockdowns is when you get less people in communities, less people in churches and places of worship. I consider a venue a place of worship, to be honest. It's like we're all, marinating in that vibe and the sound. I think that is part of the human spirit, that when you get rid of that, people are way more susceptible to just accept less and less when you're not in that high vibration.
It just becomes a cold, dark, desolate place. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah. I think so. When you get people, even with the social distancing, I believe humans need to be around each other. They have to be in close proximity. I believe in the heart chakra. All our hearts have to be kind of within proximity, and that's how we feed off each other. That's how we heal as a community. But you'll see a lot of illness, like a lot of mental illness now creeping up across the nation. A lot of people now resorting to big pharma medications. I'm not saying for people to stop taking their medication, but you do see a rise now in things like antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. And a lot of people now are comfort drinking, like myself. I'm having a beer. I don't drink this much usually, but here I am. But we have it good in Perth, but I do think of myself as an empath, and it's funny, even though people are hurting on the other side of the nation, I still feel that. I'm not sure about you, but I feel it across the whole land.
Of course, yeah, of course we do, and what you're talking about, that social distancing, this is insidious evil, because we need to touch each other, and not in a direct way either. Our bodies communicate with each other beyond. We think that we communicate in this space of these words and look at my facial gestures and okay, I know what you mean and all this. But there's a whole other communication that goes on, and we all know it. When you're in a imagine you're in a venue and there's a band going, it's so loud you can't talk. We've all been there, and you're bumping up, you're looking around. I'm a younger man, and I'm having conversations with that girl over there and that girl there and that one there. This one doesn't want to talk to me. That one wants to talk to me a lot. And this one, she knows that one's talking to me.
And then that guy wants to fight me, and that guy wants to go.
That's right. And that guy wants to talk to me, and I'm not going to go that way, but that's all right. And all these conversations are happening without words. With our bodies, with our brush, we talk. I had a conversation with the guy last night. I didn't want to have. I don't want to speak to him again. The way he touched my hat, and I'm like, "What are you doing, mate?" Like that was really aggressive, and he might not have even been aware, but like we talk in lots of different ways, and within that proximity, and in beautiful ways. We can be on a bus and just standing next to someone, and suddenly you feel better. There's a great author I love. His name is Stuart Wilde, and he talks about the etheric, the body that is part of the chakra, the extension of the chakras basically, and there's this sort of electric field that we have around us, and so when that touches someone, there's communication going on. And that, I think that's what social distancing is stopping it. So, because if these people just get together, their thoughts, because I think we are definitely telepathic in that way, and they'll be like, the thoughts will be, why are we doing this social? Why have I got a mask on? Why have I got a mask on? Let's both take it off. Okay, without saying anything, right? Because this energy, these thoughts, are so powerful, and they're trying to keep. It's like I'm thinking about now as we talk. Electricity. It's like it can't quite jump that far, but it can jump. It can jump when you're right close to each other. It can jump. It gets so powerful. But if you separate all the little batteries, they can't build that power together.
Yeah, and plus you distract everyone with these amazing toys. Like, I think it's strange how during this whole lockdown / pandemic that all of the tech companies have thrived massively because everyone's on their devices, everyone's on their network.
I can't imagine what Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Zoom just started. I stayed off it for ages because it seemed so obvious to me that they were in on it, because they just their business just like became $1 billion business, whatever overnight.
Yeah, really quickly. Yeah,
didn't it?
Yep, totally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like, I don't have kids that I know of. Bad joke. But I always feel a bit scared for the younger generation, especially with so much technology, and I'm not sure about you, and I'm not going to say anything, but if like I see and hear about a lot of parents that give their kids like iPads from the first get-go, and now kids are growing up with this technology right in front of their faces, and now they're growing up with no masks and not being able to sort of really interact with people, like facial expressions. It terrifies me as well.
Well, it does me too, Johnny, or it did. And it was the reason I spoke up in the beginning, because I think in Melbourne it was like the first mask mandates was if you weren't over 16, if you're over 16. But I thought even 16-year-olds are growing still physically, and they need it. And so I thought, they're kids. They're kids, basically. When you're 16, you don't think you're a kid, but you're a kid. And I said, what are we doing? This is just not right. Yeah. But so many people go, oh, whatever. And now, of course, you see 4-year-olds masked up and all that stuff. I have to take the sort of spiritual, philosophical route with that and go, well, these children, these souls have come for this experience, and they chose those parents, and this is what they want. At the same time, our kids don't watch, they don't have phones, they don't look at the iPad, hardly ever. And we're very, very aware of that sort of thing, and we're getting, in a way, I think there's a lot of people that are becoming so aware. They're going more to nature, going more to being aware of all these devices, and even my wife and I with our phones. I'm a musician and activist, so I can be on it all the time and justify it for the greater good, but you just got to get off it and go, well, that's not where life is. That's why I brought up the beach when we first started talking, because it's so important just to get to the beach. When I was a young man, the shops weren't opened on Saturday after 12 o'clock, and banks closed on Friday. When I was a kid, they didn't even have FPOS machines. So the whole rate of life has exponentially sped up, and so that the idea of a weekend doesn't even really exist. Chill out, don't do anything. Bullshit. I've got my phone, I've got my computer with me. It's Saturday night and we're doing our podcast, but that's different. But you can fill it up with this. You can be drawn into this digital world, and the memories that I have from a guy who I was a computer nerd. I loved Apple and when Apple II, and I think we had a VIC 20. I'm showing my age, but I loved computers when they came out. But the great memories I have are not of computers. They're of being in mosh pits. They're of doing gigs. They're of being in a van driving up to Queensland through the night, having a truck on our back, going, what the fuck, that truck's going to kill us. Doing gigs in Brisbane and wherever, and thinking we were rock gods because we were from Melbourne, doing a Her Majesty's cover gig and throwing a few originals in. Mooloolaba, I played Mooloolaba too. But, these tactile memories, this is what we want to focus on. And that's why the gig last night, going on the street, Free the Nation. So we started this thing, which maybe it's going to be a thing, I don't know, Friday, Free the Music Fridays. And it's sort of, we just did it once last night, and maybe it's something that we can encourage our fellow musicians, wherever they are, just to get out, maybe on a Friday, and play some songs in your street, wherever. Put it on your socials. And maybe that's some way we can bring the neighbours out and feel the vibration, the good vibration of music.
Absolutely. Yeah, music has the incredible power to heal, and I think if you take it to the streets old school, I think there's definitely a place for that. We did see the pictures, by the way, on your Telegram of that gig, so it was really cool to see. But,
we had some a film crew there, so
you filmed it. Cool.
There's lots of synchronicity happening up around me at the moment, and long story short, we have pros that were there with multiple cameras, including a drone, and there's going to be something beautiful that comes out of that documents that moment.
Cool. Lovely, yeah. That is cool. I think bravery is contagious. I think that's more contagious than bloody COVID. But when it's amazing. We have a very small audience, but even in our little bubble here in Perth, I've had a lot of people come up to me or message me and just say, hey, thanks. We're in a band on a label. I'd love to be able to say this, but I can't. And thank you for jumping on the sword, so to speak, and putting your nuts out there to speak for everyone else. Not to toot my own horn, because I just feel like I've always felt a weird sense of like, it's just a duty, like something that I feel compelled to do, and I don't question it. Because if I really break down what we're actually implicating by putting all our thoughts out there every night, or every week we do an episode, it is quite daunting. You're potentially even saying goodbye to employment, things like that.
Well,
with the things, like, do you, what about that? Like, as a question for you, do you ever fear, in a way? Not that I want to reinforce fear, but that in the back of your mind, you're like, am I really just screwing myself for the future by saying all this stuff?
That's been. I'm finally at a place where I'm not worried, but I had to look at those. There were a series of doors to go through, if you will, and the final door was when the vaccination email came through to me, because I'm on all those music organisations, I'm part of them, whatever, and I was just like, what? Now you're telling people. I had to do something, and like I said, I did a blog post, and I said, I'm putting my name to a list that is to free the nation, not to vaccination. But when I opened those emails up and I looked, and there was every major music organisation, every major label, it seemed to me anyway, all the music festivals, and my stomach sort of sunk for a minute, because I thought, well, you're not going to work for those guys anymore, Ben. You're never going to. I might have worked for a couple of them, and maybe I had aspirations to work for a few others. And I'm like, that's probably not going to happen if you do this blog post. But there's nothing. But I couldn't. But what was so great was that there was no choice. There was only. It was like I could feel myself just growing. Just not in a way of like watching myself, but this was a growing moment where you just go, well, but I can't not do this, so I guess I'm making that choice. Yeah, I am. And it was just sort of being aware of the choice that I was making, that fear is no longer going to control me. And so I feel really lucky, I do. And I've said this, and a few other musicians have agreed with me, being independent. And, sure, like Johnny, I wanted the major label and, the help that they can give and the image making that they can help with. And so, you get all the millions of dollars and fans or whatever, all those stuff. I wanted that when I was young, but I never wanted it enough to really sell my spirit. And I guess that was clear to me when I got to that point. And it was like, I've had people bagging me out in the music scene in Melbourne, and it hurts me. Various people that I've been close to for a long time, musicians who were signed and whatever, don't speak. We don't speak anymore, and others, have obviously different views. I don't like that situation, but it is what it is. And I just feel lucky that there's no one stopping me except me, and I can say nothing, or I can just say, hey, is there any other musicians who feel the same way? And suddenly there are.
Yeah, you're finding your tribe, and I think even though heaps of doors are closing, there's a sense of, it's a liberating feeling knowing that you've gone with your principles rather than with the easier way out. In a way, do you know what I mean? Because it is easier to, sometimes I feel like it's easier to not say anything. I'm setting myself up for a very difficult life, but I wouldn't have it any other way. There's a weird feeling where I'm like, I don't feel any hint of regret or doubt in this path that I'm taking, even though it is probably shutting a lot of doors, business-wise and employment-wise. But I'm like, but it feels great because I'm standing by my principles, and I think there's something to. I'm proud of that. And the more that you do it, the more you realize, hey, other people are doing it too. I think there's a lot of us are the silent majority, Ben. I think it's not a minority. I think a lot of there's a majority that are just staying silent, but they're waiting for their time, and they'll come out too.
I know it.
You
For
know,
a
there's
fact.
a weird feeling, whether they call it faith or whatever. I know that's a dirty word because it's used in terms of religion, but it is a kind of faith that things are working out, and that I think good always wins. I think good always wins. Like the light always wins in the end, in my book. But
The most powerful word, I think, Ben, you mentioned it, was that synchronicity.
yeah,
And I think, especially over the last, since we've done this podcast, and since before when we met, I think both on a personal and like individually together, and again, like meeting guests like yourself, that synchronicity just sort of shows like, that feeling where everything just works out, or everything seems kind of like it's written, like it's
it's meant
already,
to be.
it's already, it's meant to be. And it's that sort of feelings and those things that I've experienced leading up to where we are right now is something that I can't deny.
Yes, I think that happens when you are conscious in your truth, you know, because the world reflects back to us, you know, in a way, I think what we put out and what we expect. And so these musicians that are bound, that feel, no one is bound, but these musicians who feel they are bound to silence because of some contract they've signed, that's in their mind. It's only in their mind.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
It's only in their mind. They can say no because I signed this contract, but that doesn't mean anything. You can say whatever you want. What if this is what I want to tell people? What if this is your last day on earth? What if this is your last gig? Are you going to play a segregated show? Are you going to ruin your whole image, what your band or you stood for, by saying the people that I play for don't have a choice. They have to have 2 vaccinations or 3, whatever it is, by the time the gig comes around in order to come in here for me to play my music to them? Or are you going to say, I'm going to play outside for nothing because I love making music and I love people and I love you and I don't care what you've done to yourself? Mate, there's no choice. And if there's a struggle for you, then meditate on it, you know, and come back to yourself. You'll find money. You'll find a way. This is what I say. You know, those bullies that are around you, controlling you, they're feeding off you. They're parasites.
Absolutely, yeah.
If they don't respect you and your choice, then they are parasite and they want to control your every move. And you will be so free when you liberate yourself from them.
Absolutely, well, yeah. I just want to say real quick. Sorry to cut you off. You look so eager. But you can tell we're excited because we're all trying to chime in. But we've had a lot of musical guests on this podcast, and some of them are signed, and some of them belong to big labels. Some of them have gone on to do big things, and I don't want to sound like I'm judging them, but sometimes I'll get messages of them like really paranoid about, hey, when I said this little thing here during this episode, like, do you reckon we should cut that out, or do you reckon I was too harsh? Yeah, things like that. But my point is, it's like, what a difficult spot to be in. Like, it seems a lot like the fear, the doubt that they have is a lot higher than when you are completely liberated. Do you know what I mean? Like they are more conscious about saying the wrong thing more than anyone else, and I find it so really sad. I'm like, really, you care that much about being cancelled or saying the wrong thing just because you're honest? Like I am. We might have 20 listeners, but we're free. We're free from all of that. You know, we don't need to.
That comes directly into what I was about to say of what you were saying, Ben. Is that these bands that are telling people, oh, you need to be double vaxxed to come see our shows, and I think you said, so they can come and see their songs. Well, I think if we go back to what this terminology and these assigning rights and all this legal jargon, it's not their music. It belongs to these labels. So really, I don't know, is that stretching it a bit too far?
Yeah. No, not at all. You're right. They become, in a way, they're like cover musicians, aren't they? I'll play the songs that the label owns.
Yeah.
You know.
But do you see what I mean about like constantly being in fear of saying the wrong thing on social media? It's like, I thought you guys were musicians.
Well, it's an employment argue, because you could say that these musicians that are signed to these labels are employed by the labels, and therefore they need to follow the guidelines of what the labels tell them to do, and they need to play the music that the label kind of owns now. And if they want to continue being employed, they need to follow the guidelines.
Do you know what all this leads to, Johnny Darrell, is that this is the most exciting time, not in history alone, but in musical history. I honestly believe it.
Yeah.
This is better than Woodstock. This is better than the 60s. This, I don't know. There is so much great stuff. I'm hearing great music. I know it's out there. But not only that, the spirit of the musicians who are saying, fuck the man, right? Oh, Johnny Cash, didn't he do that, right? Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful photo, isn't it? You can put it up on your wall and it means fucking nothing unless you know what the spirit is. And it's not about anger against, someone who doesn't deserve it. It's about, I am me. I am me, and that's beautiful. And you are you, and that's beautiful. And anything that comes between that isn't beautiful, right?
Yeah.
It's that simple. Let's boil it down. It's so simple. Anyone coming in here telling us how we should relate to each other or what you should do, what I should do, fuck them, right?
Yeah.
I'll do what I do, you do what you do, and let's see what happens, all right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of that I got into music, like I said before. It's to crush the stereotype of everything and to break walls down and to not be told and to be liberated. Like, it's a weird time now seeing a lot of these influencers, they call it, like they're spending more time worrying about the correct thing to say on social media than the music. Like it's a big gauntlet to run through now to be especially being popular. Like, I'm kind of glad that I never got into a band that was really popular, because I would have been fired from the label instantly because I'm this weird. I don't like being told what to say, because that's not the reason I got into music.
Nor me. And you know what's been so beautiful about starting Free the Nation Music is getting all the musicians sending me their music. And so many of these musicians a lot of them are avant-garde or a bit left of centre of even the genre, right? So if you're a hip-hop artist, they're a bit left of that. If you're a folk artist, they're a bit alternative, whatever. They're all just, but there's lots who are just, very classifiable in the genre as well. But what I mean is it's just bringing me back to this spirit of music, why we got into music. This is what these musicians represent. And that is the spirit that is being celebrated in Free the Nation Music, and is the spirit that we need to return to, that music is for the community. Bang a drum. I got this drum on my birthday recently. I'm not going to play it because the kids are in bed. But
cool. Is that like a djembe?
Yeah, djembe.
Yeah.
And of course, you come to Mullum or Byron Bay, you got to get a djembe, right? And put your hair back in it. Right?
You need to have a joint rolled in your ear as well.
Yeah, you maybe. I will play. Hold on. But this drum was just speaking to me, and I picked it up, and I love rhythm. I play guitar, and I love the percussive nature of it as well. But I'm just hitting this drum, and there's something, and I think I took it to the beach one day and just boof, and think about vibration, like the words, and you're just like, I get it, right? This is like everything adds up, everything matters.
Yeah.
Now, whether you're on a label or an indie label, on Triple J or Channel 9 or Triple M or wherever it is, or Spotify playlist got you the million billion plays, doesn't matter. It's like your vibration matters. What you do today has power. And that's what I want to say to the musicians who are struggling. This is a birthing moment for you. This is the moment where you get to choose your soul, your spirit, to be sovereign over your spirit, and go, this is my drum, this is how I'm beating it, and to hell with everything else.
Absolutely. Ben, that was a awesome podcast. Thank you. I know we started an hour late, so that I take full responsibility. I was not aware of the daylight saving change. So.
I still don't understand that daylight saving. That's another podcast we need to have.
I called Lucius the before too early, and then now we're calling you too late. So thank you for your patience as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Did you want to share where people can find you at all? I know you're on Telegram and as well on other socials as well.
Yeah, so my personal website is ben-mitchell.com. We're on Instagram. They canned my first page because it was getting too popular, and but I've got another one, Ben Mitchell Songs, on Instagram, and then there's freethenationmusic.com, which is our website. So if there's any musicians or music fans, they can come and join Free the Nation Music there. and be part of this very, very exciting movement. And we did our first show here in Marlem in northern New South Wales, but we intend on moving around. So hopefully we'll come to you soon.
That is amazing. And just really quickly before we go, I forgot to ask you about what happened with Bandcamp. Did you have stuff removed from there, or?
I had my entire back catalogue and my platform deplatformed without warning or without communication. The last single I released was "Free the Nation," a song I wrote after doing that blog post, "Free the Nation," and the album before that was "Are You Gonna Be Free," which I released a few months before. So all the theme of freedom was what probably pushed me over the limit there. And they haven't responded, and I've put it on Twitter and Instagram and sent them messages. And that was my main income from music sales, but I've had to sort of revamp the shop and go on with that. But yeah, so that's what happened. That was my experience there.
That is crazy. I didn't know Bandcamp could even do something like that, because I know a lot of our, even my stuff in my previous bands, we used a lot of Bandcamp to sell vinyls and things like that. But that is insane.
Well, Bandcamp was sold to us as the alternative, wasn't it? I remember thinking, oh, I'm not going to go to Bandcamp. It's not beneath me, like I'll be on iTunes and Spotify or whatever, the ones that everyone wants to be. And Bandcamp was sort of a bit grunge or alternative. And then quickly I got onto that. And then, I loved it because you could release something really quickly. I could record a song, and if I wanted to put it out that day, I didn't do that, but you can. And the share was really good. So I was promoting it with Free the Nation Music as a really, that was right up there with my promotion. Share your Bandcamp link, because that they give the best share to artists, because it spoke to me, with the generosity to artists. And so when they deplatformed me, I said, oh, well, I can't really promote you guys anymore. Not that I care, it's only 170 musicians, but maybe if there's 10,000 musicians on freethenationmusic.com, they might suddenly reinstate my page.
That is crazy.
I'd love to see that grow. I think just to bring back the human element to music is what I feel is lacking.
Yeah. And like I said, I feel like there's a lot of people that are about to join if they haven't already. It's growing every day. Every time I check back on your Telegram, it's growing. But I think, like I said before, we are the silent majority. And I think it's a vocal minority that have taken control of everything at the moment, giving like we said, the illusion of control at the moment. But once we, kind of push past it, you realize that a lot of this control holds no weight, even in the chords. And I do hope to see a bit of a grassroots kind of revolution happen with musicians trying to think outside the box and trying to, use these awesome tools. I call technology tools, but to kind of break the system a bit and innovate. So Ben, thank you so much for talking to us and giving us an hour of your time.
Thank you.
And we'll be watching you closely, and maybe we can catch up again later in the summer, and we'll have another chat. That was awesome.
It was a big pleasure, Ben. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, Darryl.
That's amazing. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.